Good evening, everybody. It is 7 o'clock on Monday, July 1st, and we'll call this regular City Commission meeting of Sault Ste. Marie City Commission to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Bospis Rath.
Here.
Commissioner Gage.
Here.
Commissioner Habusta.
Here.
Commissioner Marble.
Here.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Here.
All are present. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Today is July 1st, and on July 1st, 1867, the British North America Act, which is today now known as the Constitution Act of 1867, created Canada. In June 20th, 1868, Governor General Lord Monck signed a proclamation that requested all of Her Majesty Queen Victoria's subjects across Canada to celebrate July 1. 1879, a federal law made July 1st a statutory holiday as the anniversary of Confederation, which is later called Dominion Day. So on October 27, 1982, July 1st, Dominion Day officially became Canada Day. So we certainly wish our Canadian counterparts and everybody in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, a happy Canada Day. On behalf of the review committee for the city manager, he has contract renewing in October of this year. We have met and we've looked through many different formats of a performance tool, and after a few slight adjustments, probably a week time, we will get them to the city commission, at which time we will ask you to fill it out and return it within 30 days, and we'll have the process underway. So we will move on into item C, which is public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments on any of our scheduled agenda items? Linda had a funny look there, sorry. Linda Hoth. All right, thanks, Linda. Anybody else? All right, we will move on into item D, which is the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Robin Troyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of June 17th. Item 2, acceptance of Downtown Development Authority meeting minutes of May 8th. Item 3 is acceptance of the Planning Commission meeting minutes of May 23rd. Item 4 is acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of May 5th and the special meeting minutes of May 24th. Item 5 is acceptance of the Sault Ste. Marie Housing Commission meeting minutes of May 16th. Item 6 is acceptance of the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting minutes of May 16th. Item 7 is reappointment of Jen Labonte to the Sault Ste. Marie Housing Commission. Item 8 is reappointment of Nikki McKechnie to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Item 9 is appointment of Marnie Rubenstein to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Item 10 is consideration of private use agreement with the downtowner for outdoor space. Item 11 is consideration of Smart Zone lease agreement with Superior Forensic Engineering LLC. And item 12 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager. Would any commissioner like any item further explained or removed for individual consideration? Guessing Commissioner Rubenstein.
Yeah, I just need to abstain from number 9 because I'm married to Marnie.
Okay, so why don't we will remove that one for individual consideration so you can vote on the rest of the consent agenda. Anybody else have any items? Commissioner Bauer.
So moved that other than item 9, we pass tonight's consent agenda.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we will address item number 9, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first for commission consideration is a request to reappoint Marnie Rubenstein to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This item was removed because Commissioner Rubenstein is married to Mrs. Rubenstein.
All right, any
How's
questions or
that a conflict?
comments? Commissioner Gage?
I just want to thank not only Marnie, but all the other people being reappointed to the committees. I know that it takes a lot of effort to volunteer. I especially want to thank Marnie Rubenstein for her wonderful, tremendous work on the Zoning Board of Appeals. She does a great job, and I can't think of anybody better for the Zoning Board of Appeals than Marnie Rubenstein.
Would you like to
So
make
with that,
a
I
motion?
make the motion to reappoint her to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Anybody have any questions? Commissioner
What are
Bauer?
you running for?
Nothing, just being funny.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. We'll move on into item E, which is special orders of business, and go to City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve the ordinance as presented regarding the Knox box discussion we've been having. The commission will recall that there was a discussion at the previous commission meeting. This item was tabled for 2 weeks, the next commission meeting, which would be tonight, for the commission to do some subsequent follow-up. With this item, the public hearing has already been concluded. That was done during the previous city commission meeting, so all we'd be looking for tonight is consideration and our recommendation to approve the ordinance.
Thank you, City Manager. Go to the commission for questions, comments. Commissioner Gage?
So I was kind of the one that asked for it to be tabled. Talked to a few more business owners. It's still kind of a mixed bag. I understand the point behind this and the sentiment behind it, and it's nothing against these in general, but I haven't had anything sway my mind, so I'm probably going to just be a no vote on it still.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Rubenstein?
One thing that I noticed is there's still a lot of confusion, and I know the answer to this question, but I guess just for clarification, I don't know, City Manager Chapman or Chief Miller, if you want to answer. Regardless of the vote tonight, this will get put in place, correct? It's just deciding if it's going to be codified or if it's going to be up to the fire chief moving forward. Is that the correct way to put it?
As the fire chief kind of starts moving up here, in general, yes, because it's a requirement as an option of the fire chief. And Ed feels strongly about the Knox boxes, so that will be continued to be implemented, primarily new buildings moving forward.
And buildings that we do inspections, that we come in contact with that meet the criteria for the box that don't currently have them. So the advantage of the ordinance, the way it's written, is it gives business owners 3 years to get the boxes. If we go and do an inspection tomorrow, they will get 30 days to get the box if they fall into the criteria for the fire code to have the box installed. So it is an advantage built in to have it over a 3-year period to give people time to prepare for it, to get it installed and ordered. And there are, a lot of businesses that we're going around to that we're seeing that have been missed over the years. And that's the other thing that this ordinance brings to the city is some consistency with how the code is applied, rather than however many the next fire chief might say that it's not. 2 later might have the same opinion as me, and then we're enforcing the code again. So it would alleviate some of that confusion.
Thank you. One more question. So on the ordinance itself, how did you get to the point of deciding that it's, I believe it's any unit with two or more residential, or more than 2 residential units? How did
More
you-
than 3.
More than 3. How did
Yes.
you get to that number?
Fire code, it's in there, that any multifamily residential unit that has more than 3 units will have a rapid entry key system, or the system that the city adopted before is the Knox box system.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Commissioner Gage?
I guess a follow-up on the 3 years versus 30 days. As I understand it though, like if you went to a business right now and deemed that they needed to have a Knox box, you would give them at that time 30 days or whatever.
Correct.
But then if we pass this ordinance, what's to stop you from going to that same business and giving them 30 days as a top? I mean, so
The or-
it's still a they'd have 3 years to comply?
They would have 3 years based on the ordinance. We would notify them and say that their business meets that qualification according to the ordinance,
Right.
and they would have that 3-year period starting today. So if in a year we go to a business that we haven't been to, and we told them they needed to have a box put in, then they would have 2 years. So eventually that 3-year grace period would go away. But it just gives people a heads up, and part of this is education. You know, most people didn't know about the benefits or of the Knox box, and that it's something that we're giving them time to learn about, purchase, and get ahead of the curve, rather than being surprised when we give them an inspection report that says, hey, we found all these code violations, and to top it off, you have to do a Knox box within 30 days.
Because ultimately it falls down to, right now, just the fire chief's discretion,
Correct.
right? So I guess what I'm saying is, like, it seems like if we pass this, we'll have three years to get folks in line, but, I mean, are you saying that you wouldn't go to individual businesses and give them that 30-day notice within the next 3 years? You wouldn't do that?
No, the way that the ordinance is written is it gives everybody in the city a 3-year grace period to get the boxes if they need them. So they would be exempt from that 30-day notice. Any new construction would have that in the plan reviews, and they would know ahead of time. So our recent plan reviews that we've done, all new businesses have complied with the Knox box.
Okay. I guess just to finish kind of my thought, like, it's tough. I don't want to be difficult or obtuse about this, but it feels like we're kind of in a spot where we either have to do it or we don't have to do it. And I don't know, like the 30 days thing kind of trips me up 'cause it feels like our hands may be being a little bit forced, which is fine, but.
And let me just comment on that too. I mean, I don't want the 30-day comment to be taken as a threat.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just a fact. So please just take it as a
Sure,
fact.
sure.
That's a possibility. If this doesn't pass tonight, is Ed gonna do inspections tomorrow and start giving everybody 30 days notice? No.
No.
It's not, so I caution to interpret that
Sure.
as a threat. It's just a fact. That could happen.
Right.
And I have total respect for the fire chief. I want to make that clear too. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding obtuse or anything like that, so.
Part of the Knox box, I think that maybe I didn't explain well to begin with, is it's used for the times where we need to get into a building that maybe we don't have a contact with the business owner for an odor complaint or for an alarm system that if they had the box, it would save them money because we would gain entry to it. It gives us that ability to build a relationship with our business owners too, with regular inspections of the Knox box and keeping up with our emergency contact information and keys that would be available. And yes, it does give us that rapid entry point if there is an emergency in the building that could save time and resources, because some of the buildings that we see, they're very creative with how they secure their buildings. And it takes time and it takes people. And when you show up at a fire with 5 people, you don't want to have 2 people trying to get into the building where one person could have done it with a key box. So there's advantages that way. But from the smallest incident to the biggest ones, there is a benefit to having these in our buildings.
Commissioner Bosworth.
I apologize, I missed last week's meeting, or 2 weeks ago meeting. Can you give me a reason why someone would not want a knockbox besides the cost?
Well,
And you don't
cost,
have to, but-
cost is number one, and I think for some, it might be a little bit of control. They're afraid of the fact that they're giving a key and a box that they would feel that would put their business at some kind of security risk. But the box itself is very secure. The people that we hire are vetted and go through a very thorough background check. And every master key that we have is secured in a vault in our vehicles, and it is recorded and logged who pulls them out, who puts them back in, how long they've been out of the key box vault. So there is a very good tracking record. In fact, I looked up today, since January 1st, we've used the Knoxbox system 190 times in the city, where we have gained entry into businesses and really saved damage to those businesses.
Thank you.
What time period was that?
I'm sorry, was that?
What time period was that, Chief?
Just 6 months.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Rubenstein.
I think I saw that there was another system, not Knoxbox. You might know the name of it. But I guess what's to stop another fire chief from saying, "Oh, I don't like Knoxboxes. I want to use this other system"?
That's where I think it would fall on the city commission. Knoxbox is one of the best systems out there. There are some other ones out there, and in the city I worked at previously, we had a different version of it. And it wasn't as robust as the Knoxbox, and the city actually changed to Knoxbox, and that's where we had the idea of the 3-year period, because that city with thousands of Knoxbox required buildings put an ordinance in place very similar to this and gave business owners 3 years to update from their previous lockbox system to the new one. So there are other ones out there, but I think just the history of what we have and the infrastructure we have for it right now, any other fire chief would be a little, I guess I could say the word crazy to change, just because it would be a lot of work and it would be a lot of cost, not only for the business owners, but for the fire department itself too.
Mr. Bauer?
2 questions. Number 1, are you aware of anyone in this town who is operating with a system other than Knoxbox, considering that you're going into these at a rate of like 1 a day, 190 over 6 months?
That's previously, before the Knoxbox was really pushed, and this is what I found out recently when I was doing some history on this, people would just give keys to the fire department. So here's a key to my house, put it in the fire engine, put it in the ambulance, if you need it, use it.
They go around like janitors. With
Right,
like a
and we would have a big key ring.
That's quick for fire response, trying to.
Yeah, and the other thing that we did have is some people would put almost like the realtor boxes on their doors, and we still do have some people that do that on residential homes, and then they'll call the dispatch center and they'll put it into that address as a note that there's a box there. Commercially, we have one business, because how things slip through the cracks, put in a realtor box into a business, and we're trying to get that fixed right now, and have a Knoxbox put in place, because it's just a plastic box on the outside of the building, so the owner's not even put keys in it. So by having one consistent box, that's the goal, is that we have one means of tracking it, and it's the most secure one that's out there right now.
Another question, and I'm sure this is going to come up eventually to either you or maybe to Brian. What is the penalty for non-compliance of, I mean, do we have that written into this ordinance?
Yes.
What is it?
So in the ordinance, under section 12-231 is penalty. The violation of any provision of this ordinance is a municipal civil infraction which shall result in the assessment of a fine of not less than $100 or not more than $1,000 per violation, plus costs and other sanctions for each infraction.
Interesting.
$100 to $1,000, depending on the scenario.
Right. That's all I had. Go. Oh, wait, I'm not the mayor. You got a call on you, not. Sorry.
Commissioner Abusta?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to be clear. I'm a fan of Knox boxes. I'm also a fan of the International Fire Code. I'm a fan of our city manager hiring a fire chief who recognizes the importance of enforcing this part of the IFC. But with that said, the question in my mind isn't Knox boxes, rather our role as a commission. In my mind, by adding a city ordinance where we already have adopted an international fire code which covers this issue, seems out of place from our role. And I would rather support us continuing to have a fire chief who enforces this rather than adding a city ordinance where one isn't needed. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Well said, their hand up. Commissioner Gage?
The second part of the penalty too, though, is issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So I guess it's interesting too. So to Commissioner Bauer's point, I see those really as 2 penalties. And I guess I understand that there needs to be some sort of penalty, otherwise you're not going to get compliance. But I think that both penalties are a bit steep, and maybe understanding why we would need the certificate of occupancy clause in there for that? Because if it's new construction, the fire chief currently has the ability not to issue a certificate of occupancy based on the Knox box discussion right now, right? I mean, it just seems strange because like I don't imagine a situation we wouldn't like repeal a certificate of occupancy.
No, and that's where the penalty on the civil infraction side comes into play. If somebody has a certificate of occupancy already and refuses to put in a Knox box after an inspection, then we would have no other recourse to deal with the building owner. When it's a new building, then we have that certificate of occupancy we would hold in bay of the Knox box without any further penalty or assessment at that point.
Just because it seems like that's almost unnecessary, maybe in the ordinance, because really the fire chief decides that, right? I mean, or could decide that.
Which aspect of it?
The certificate of occupancy part.
It's the building official that issues a certificate of occupancy. We work with him to determine if the building's complete enough to have that.
But as Chief Miller was saying, for an existing business right now, we wouldn't necessarily revoke their CO. That's where the fine structure comes into for this particular ordinance.
All right, any other questions, Commissioner Rubenstein?
Just to add on to Commissioner Bauer, I looked at a handful of other cities, and I did see a couple others that had a similar penalty in terms of the civil fine of no lower than 100 or no higher than 1,000. So that is pretty consistent across the board. And then just a point that got brought up last time that I looked into a little bit and didn't really get a clear answer on was any long-term insurance savings for buildings. I guess the response I got was a strong maybe, where it wasn't like putting in a suppression system, where it's yes, we know you're going to get a discount on it, but that insurance companies like if you're doing things that are going to help limit damage. But I guess just I don't know if you can provide any more information on that, but I didn't get a super clear answer. But it definitely was not a yes, 100%. There's going to be some type of savings by doing this.
That's a great question, and I can't answer that because, you know, it's up to each insurance company is going to handle their discounts as they go. But I have not seen anything that says specifically that a Knox box will save them money.
Thank you. I guess for me, I've been torn a little bit like Commissioner Gage on this, but I think where I ultimately come down is the long-term consistency. I don't want to see us in a position where we're flip-flopping back and forth for whatever reason, or have different fire chiefs with different opinions. So that's where I land on this.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Bauer.
My question is actually at this point for Commissioner Habusta, because what I hear you saying is that you're in favor of Knox boxes, but you're not in favor of us implementing this ordinance, even though it would buy business owners or anybody else more time in order to, you know, come up with the money or to get the Knox box, install it, yada, 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 right? So I guess what I'm asking is, what are you really saying here? I mean, what is your position then?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question, Commissioner Bauer. My point is as I mentioned, I'm in favor of Knox boxes. I'm in favor of adding them. I think International Fire Code covers that. I think International Fire Code probably has a 30-day. Does it have 30 days written in so that is your personal?
We have 14, 30, or 60-day violations that we can apply. So if it's critical health and life safety, they would get a 14-day notice on it. This would fall into that medium 30-day role of it.
So I guess to Commissioner Bauer's question, can I ask you a question? If you feel that this is a medium need, why put a 3-year requirement upon it?
It's really to make it easier for everybody to save over that 3-year period to buy it. We do know that right now the cost is about $400. So over that, from today moving on, that 3-year period will give people time to save up purchase it and install it, or if they have any other questions, research it and get with us so we can help them in making a decision on what's best for their business.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Again, I just don't feel like our role is to add an ordinance where we don't need an ordinance. I think it's covered. I think it's covered by International Fire Code. I think whether or not the chief enforces that is up to the current chief at the time. And again, it reeks of big government to me in adding ordinances where we don't need them when it's already covered. Even though that decreases the time frame for a business owner from the time of inspection, I think, tonight business owners are hearing and they're understanding that this is part of an international fire code that the chief at any minute can enforce. I think the business owners I've talked to, I've expressed that too. So that's why I'm comfortable with not moving forward with this ordinance.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Bauer, you
Can I finish that
still
up?
on this? Sure.
Sorry. All I wanted to say was, and I agree with Commissioner Habusta largely, however, I do see value in us being, I wouldn't say proactive, but at least active on this, in as much as a business owner, I would rather have 3 years to be able to get this done than to potentially have to do it in 30 days, I'm not gonna make the motion, but, but I'm just saying that I actually do agree with Commissioner Habusta in principle, but if it were out there, I would find myself voting in favor of it simply because I think that it would be better for, the business owners, and that's really who we're talking about at this point, to give them 3 years instead of a potential 30 days.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else? Commissioner Gage.
I guess what I appreciate about this conversation too is I don't feel super strongly opposed or super strongly in favor either. And really the conversation within the commission has greatly shaped my opinion on this. I greatly appreciate everybody's perspectives on that. To Commissioner Bauer's point, I guess, is there a way that, I don't know, it's weird to ask for a commitment or something to have like a moratorium on 30-day notices for the next 3 years, or is that a thing that we can ask for? I mean, that's right. I mean, we couldn't really do that. So, I mean, there's nothing stopping the 30 days from coming anyway.
Correct.
So,
My apology, I have one more.
All right, and then we'll wrap it up.
And thanks. If we don't pass this tonight, then what is the penalty? Because the penalty was in the ordinance, right? So if there is no ordinance, what would the penalty be for not complying with the requirement to have a Knox box?
Aside from the 30-day requirement versus the 3-year, I'd have to defer that to Ed. Chief Miller.
There is some mechanism to apply penalties towards a business that's non-compliant with a code. It's a little bit more difficult to enforce that since it's not spelled out specifically for the Knox box. If it is a building that's under renovation or of new construction, their occupancy could be held until that Knox box is in place. But for existing buildings, it really, the leverage goes to the business owner, and we would have to work to try to get them to be compliant with the code a little harder. Which part of that is being education, and education's the first step in this. We don't want to go the enforcement route, but it's good to have that there so that we can remind people that this is important, and that if they choose not to follow the code, that there are some consequences to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And my opinion is that I am never a proponent of barriers to opening businesses or making things difficult, and have worked hard to make sure that we break those down. But this is about health and safety. I fully support it. Shocking, the 190 times in 6 months that you've used that, and that's businesses only. And I think this will give some consistency with the ordinance, and certainly the 3 years, the opportunity to be able to save for the box over 3 years, I think is good, so I support it. So do we have a motion, Commissioner Bosselstrath?
I would also like to say I support this. I mean, here you have someone with expertise trying to make everything safe, saying this is what would be good and needed. I know we're kind of discussing an ordinance type of thing, but here again, he's doing his job. That's why he's here, trying to keep everybody safe. To me, it's in a way a no-brainer. I understand the cost, $367 to $437, depending on how you want it to look. But if you have 3 years to kind of do that, I don't see how or why you couldn't afford that then. So I would be happy to make the motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
There's motion, is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Could we please do a roll call vote?
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Baspis Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage,
No.
Commissioner Habusta,
No.
Commissioner Marble,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Yes.
Motion passed on a 5-2 vote. Thank you very much. Great questions, too. We will move on into item E, special orders of business. Number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to rezone the property more commonly known as 1022 East Portage Avenue from R1 one-family residential to B3 general business. This was an item that was in your packet during the commission meeting at the last meeting. Public comment has been completed, so we don't need public comment specifically, or public hearing, excuse me. Public hearing on this item. Just looking for final consideration from the commission. Recommendation is to adopt the ordinance as presented that would change the aforementioned property from R1 to B3.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions or comments on this particular item? Somebody like to make a motion? Commissioner Gage.
Motion to adopt the included ordinance to rezone Assessors Subdivision Number 5, the west 40 feet of Lot 211 and lots 212 and 213, also known as 1022 East Portage Avenue, from R1 one-family residential to B3 general business.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Moving into item G, business items, number 1, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Police Officers Labor Council. As the commission is aware, we've been in negotiations with the police union for a few months now. Their existing CBA expires at yesterday, 6/30/2024. This is a new 2-year CBA. We opted for a 2-year versus a 3-year in order to put them on the same cycle as the police command unit, which currently has a CBA that will be expiring in 2 years. So it's aligning both groups on the same cycle. Included in the CBA are wage adjustments as presented in the wage table, is included in an item. There's some language change and some cleanup throughout the contract, removal of a lot of old dates and references to former employees that are no longer within the organization. There's an increase on the rate of vacation accruals. A couple of court time and call-in pay increases from 2 hours to 3 hours. The inclusion of the field training officer with a stipend for doing those training activities. Again, some changes within some language throughout the contract. Yeah, so overall, we had a good bargaining session with that unit, and we would look for a motion to approve the CBA as presented.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions or comments on the proposed contract? Commissioner Habusta, would you like to make that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion to authorize the city manager to execute the collective bargaining agreement between the city of Sault Ste. Marie and the Police Officers Labor Council.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Under G, business items, number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration are a handful of motions related to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund process that we've been working on for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, as well as upgrades to the sanitary and stormwater system over at Peck and Meridian. So, as our city engineer and our consulting engineer start moving up to the dais, we have a short presentation to kind of go over with you. Just a couple of points just to make for tonight's items. This is a process that we've been working through that's dictated by the state, Eagle, Environmental Great Lakes, and Environment. It's on a very constricted timeline. There's a lot of moving pieces that kind of have to be done in concert and very quickly. The motions tonight, you have 4 motions in front of you. The first 2 motions are kind of coming off of the bid process, which we just wrapped up late Monday afternoon for both the wastewater treatment plant and the Peck and Meridian projects. Tonight, you are tentatively approving those 2 contracts. So the process with the CWSRF is we get a notice to proceed from Eagle to bid out the project. We bid out the project, we review those, we bring them to commission to tentatively approve the contracts. We'll send that tentative approval to Eagle, and then once we get a notice to proceed, those contracts will come back to the commission. So it's not necessarily a be-all, end-all motion tonight. The contracts will still be coming back more formally to the commission. Correct, Dave? Within the bids, more specifically the Peck and Meridian bid, there's 2 categories of projects. There's participating and there's non-participating. Within the motions, you'll kind of see it's very specific about the about participating and non-participating. Participating work on Peck and Meridian are things that are eligible to be funded through the CWSRF. Non-participating are components of the project that we as staff added in that's more of a opportunity to get something else done. So the Peck and Meridian project will focus on stormwater and sanitary. While we have the area dug up, we've asked for bids on improving or replacing the water lines, and the water mains in the area. They're old, they need to be replaced. Instead of replacing 2/3 of it, putting in a new road and eventually digging it back up and working on the water main, we've asked for bids on the water side of it. We, in the flurry to get these items ready for the commission tonight, don't have all of our ducks in a row for the water side. So we are only asking for tentative approval of the participating aspects of the project. The next commission meeting in July, which would be on July 15th, we will have a recommendation and kind of a better plan put together for the water side of it. So, like I said, there's a water aspect of this project. We did bid it out. We just didn't have time to get everything ready for it because we're so focused on the other aspects of this. The next meeting, the water side only, will be coming to the commission with a request to fund it and how we plan on funding it, things of that nature. Okay? Clear? Clear as sanitary sewer. So, what we have tonight, we have our engineer and our consulting engineer. We're going to walk through a PowerPoint that'll just kind of update you on where we're at with the project, the bids that came in, and where we go from here.
Good evening.
There we go. Good evening, everybody. TJ Bates with Donahue and Associates. It's a pleasure to be up here, pleasure to be talking about this project, finally getting it to the cusp of breaking ground and moving things forward. So want to start on the next slide, which is a quick recap of the project. Donahue's been assisting the city probably in the neighborhood of 2 years in creation of the application, submitting the application, and then the subsequent design. The city scored very highly in the criteria set forth by Eagle, and part of that was the combination of the sanitary work at Peck and Meridian along with the work at the wastewater treatment plant. Those high scores resulted in one of the highest rankings in the state last year, with $17.5 million in loan funding and then another $17.5 million available in grant funding. So to kind of recap what's in the project and build upon what we've talked about, at Peck and Meridian, we're doing the sanitary, stormwater, water mains, and new stormwater discharge. We'll also be doing some miscellaneous restoration to the site. That's going to help address some basement flooding, deteriorated and aged infrastructure, some combined sewers, and it will allow for the closure of two current combined sewer overflows. The other half, or maybe not even half's not the right number, the other portion of the project is on the wastewater treatment plant side of things. This includes touching on several of the main treatment processes at the facility, preliminary and secondary treatment, disinfection, chemical feed, as well as electrical and controls upgrade. This is going to help us address the failing equipment at the plant. Again, we've got a lot of aged infrastructure that is well past its normal life expectancy. We're going to see an increase in reliability, better operations of the facility, and it's going to help address some of the items that are currently in the discharge permit that the plant operates under through the state. So that's what's in the project. How did bidding go? Bidding on the collection side of things was very different than bidding at the wastewater side of things. We got 3 bids on the collection side. There was value engineering included during the bidding effort, where we worked with the contractors to find a more locally available aggregate source and were able to bring the cost of the collection system project down prior to bid day. Like was mentioned previously, there are participating and non-participating portions of this project. And I just want to echo the sentiment that this is the time to take advantage of the funding you have for the participating elements, and then also do the water main while you have the street excavated and torn up. So like I said, the wastewater treatment plant was very different. We only received 1 bid on the wastewater side of things. Value engineering had to be performed after the bids were open while working with the single respondent contractor. We were able to negotiate a proposed deduct of just shy of $4 million, and that should bring the total contract award to just shy of $24 million for the plant work alone. And just because they were included in the bid tab, we did not accept any of the alternates that we had included with the project. So to kind of explain what has happened there, what we're seeing in conversations with equipment vendors and also representatives at Eagle is the market is currently saturated with water and wastewater type projects. All of the projects that are going through the SRF system had to be out to bid, bids had to be opened by the end of June, which meant there were multiple bid openings last week, and contractors were able to kind of pick and choose which jobs they wanted to go after as opposed to going after more opportunities. There's also an extremely limited labor force available locally here in Sault Ste. Marie right now. The LOX project has taken up a lot of those local resources. Working with the contractor through the value engineering effort, we discussed where we thought their largest discrepancy between our bid tabulation was, and it really came down to the labor side of things. On the equipment side of things, their prices are very comparable to what we saw during design, very comparable to what we included in our engineer's estimate. But unfortunately, we did not account for the majority of the project labor coming up from southern and central Wisconsin. So that's a recap of what happened on bid day. On behalf of myself and C2AE, our recommendations to the council would be to move forward with the collection system improvements, awarding the project to Baco Construction. They're a known entity here in Sault Ste. Marie. They're known to both C2AE and ourselves, and we see them as very capable of completing this work. On the wastewater side of things, we would recommend award of the value engineered contract to Myron Construction. Previously, Donahue has worked with Myron Construction. Donahue is a Wisconsin-based firm. We've worked with them in the past on other water wastewater projects, including the ongoing project right now in Marquette. Myron is the contractor and Donahue is the engineer. So that is the results of the bid. Do you want me to dive into this first, or do you want to give a lead in?
Any questions? We got a couple more slides, but any questions so far on the bids themselves or the projects?
Yeah, just a quick question. So you're bringing folks in from southern Wisconsin and middle Wisconsin. Where are they gonna, they're gonna house them, right? We don't have, okay, and then how long is the construction actually gonna take? Like, how long are these folks gonna be here?
At the wastewater treatment plant, we project that to be about 2 years right now.
So they're gonna be here steady the entire time, 2 years?
I expect they go home maybe every
Sure,
other
sure.
weekend, but
Yeah.
yes, there will be a increased presence in Sault Ste. Marie for 2 years to complete the work.
Okay.
And it's not the city or Donahue, it's Myron.
Right.
Correct. It's Myron's crew and their subcontractors.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the influx of other workers and stuff so I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Myron had done their homework. They had done their research. They knew the current marketplace up here and anticipated those costs ahead of time.
Okay.
Any questions on the bid or project scope? Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. I
Commissioner
apologize.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tell me about the work that they're doing in Marquette and how has Donahue received that work? Has it been
It's
well
gone
received?
very well.
Okay.
Myron's a very competent firm. I think we first crossed paths with them about 10 years ago in the water industry, and they've continued to grow in the water and wastewater industry since then. They actually have an office in Marquette now, which has supported the efforts there, and that's where their home base will be administratively for the project here.
Thank you.
They're also in Bay Mills building the hotel. Different segment, but they're familiar with the area.
Any other questions on bid or scope? All right, we'll move on to the next slide.
Okay, the other thing that we brought before you today is the engineering amendment for our support and continued work on the project as it moves through construction. They're similar to the way the project is bid. There are a couple different components, and I just kind of want to break those down and answer any questions you may have. At a high level, there are 3 parts to the project. C2AE will be overseeing construction at Peck and Meridian. Donahue will be overseeing construction work at the wastewater treatment plant. And then Donahue will also be completing application engineering, which I will define a little better for you on the next slide. But what the first 2 bullet items represent are construction-related services. That's Donahue or C2AE having staff in the field while the contractor is working, being that buffer between city staff, plant staff, and the contractor. It's our job to coordinate their efforts and oversee the work that they do, also ensure that the work that they do is in compliance with the contract documents that they would be signing, and making sure we're delivering the correct package to everyone upon final completion. And I do want to touch on value engineer or value engineering that we have done internally since the bid opening last week, Monday. The Donahue fee for daily oversight and construction services at the wastewater treatment plant has gone down in the last week. It has not gone down significantly because we're looking at more of an administrative deduction at this point with the paperwork that we need to process for the work that we negotiated out of the contract with Myron. The biggest component of our price is the duration of the project. We feel confident in the 2-year estimate, but it could be shorter now, especially that we have removed additional scope from the contractor. We'll be reviewing that with the contractor early in the project to make sure we understand what their anticipated duration is, and we're happy to have further conversation with everyone here once we're more aware of that and we're able to give you a more factual answer as to revised construction duration instead of just our best guess at this point. So that's why there has not been significant movement in that number at this point, but there has been some. The last slide just gives a quick recap of what engineering, application engineering at the wastewater plant would be. This is the programming aspect of things that allows for the supervisory control and data acquisition system, better known as SCADA, to oversee and help manage plant operations. Everything is very manual right now. By installation of this SCADA system, they're able to monitor plant performance from the front office. They're able to make some modifications to plant operations from there, and it allows better control of the facility with the operators that Brian has on staff. Donahue has a division that specializes in this type of work, and personally I think we're pretty good at it because it's all those guys do. They don't go out and program anything other than water and wastewater facilities. So we're able to integrate that in along with our design services to provide some savings there as well. So that is everything that is wrapped up in our engineering amendment, and I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Commissioner Boosta?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming, but I want to verify, when you mentioned the SCADA program, is training included as part of that?
Absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
I guess the last question I have is, for the residents in that area, is the road gonna be torn up down to the water mains and stuff for 2 years, or it's gonna be filled in over
When
the
they,
winter and?
when Donahue speaks of the 2 years, it's the wastewater treatment plant.
I see.
I mean, it's a normal, outdoor infrastructure project. I can't think of a better term. It's gonna be a normal course of project over there. So I mean, it may bleed over into 2 construction seasons, but it'll be like the Easter Day project. It'll still be able to be traversed during the winter time. It won't be a,
Current estimates on the collection side is it should get done in one construction season, but it may bleed over into a second season for a little bit.
We've had some preliminary discussions with Baco, they might even start this year. What they would do, the discharge for the storm drainage first, to get ready for next summer, then they can just go like mad.
Any other questions? You look hesitant. Did you want to take the all four?
I can.
Okay, sure.
Figuring you were going to
Sure.
give that one to me.
Go
I
ahead,
was
Commissioner.
preparing myself. All right, motion to tentatively award a construction contract in the amount of $23,981,822 to Myron Construction Company Incorporated by resolution and approval, city manager to sign.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First motion passed unanimously. Commissioner.
Second motion to tentatively award a construction contract in the amount of $5,691,473.50 to Baco Construction Company by resolution and approve city manager to sign.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion also passed unanimously.
Number
Number three.
three, motion to approve Donahue Construction Amendment 001 in the amount of $3,090,478, bringing contract up to $5,604,478, and approve city manager to sign.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number four.
Lastly, motion to amend the budget by $1,110,700 with funding from Sewer Capital Reserve per attached source and use worksheet.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving along, G, business items number 3, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to purchase a new to us used forklift. So the wastewater treatment plant has a forklift. They use it to move around one of the big containers that's part of their rag collecting process, for lack of a better term, and not to be too descriptive. The forklift died a couple weeks ago or so. Director Masterson looked for a new one. They're kind of expensive. He was able to find a good used one for our use, roughly about $18,000. So he's bringing forward this request to purchase the forklift. So we have 3 motions in front of you. Motion to waive bidding for the purchase, motion to approve the purchase, and a motion to amend the budget for the wastewater treatment plant capital equipment by $18,000 with funding from Sewer Capital Reserve. So obviously, this is a used piece of equipment that we have found available to us. There is not an opportunity to bid out for used pieces of equipment, hence the motion to waive the bidding process. So if there's any questions, we have to entertain them. Otherwise, we look for the 3 motions to be approved as presented.
Any questions for City Manager? Commissioner Rubenstein.
How much do new ones typically cost?
Director Masterson, how much does a new one cost? Yeah, take bets now while he's coming up. Anybody?
How much?
High and low, high low, high low.
I'm gonna guess
$1.
$1.
$1.
Winner. I'll take
$1.
one. Roughly $30,000 to $50,000. So
See, $1, I win.
And what's the useful life of a new one versus new one?
ours we received in 1986, and all indications show that it was used when we got it then. So that's close to 30 years. So this one should last us a very long time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Habusta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In full transparency, I've been burned a few times on used products through school buses and things like that. We purchase used through other boards that I've sat on. So I'm really hesitant on used products. But I'm wondering if you could provide. There's not a whole lot of information provided on the specific unit within our documents. I'm wondering if you could provide some of that information as far as what you're looking to purchase.
Yes, it's a 2010 Hyundai propane run forklift. Lifts 5,000 pounds. It has all the safety equipment on, blinking light, backup alarm, won't start unless the seat belt is. It's in excellent shape. I had, myself went and looked at it, and then I had a couple of my guys at the plant went and looked at it, and everything seems great on it, so.
Have we had a city mechanic or anyone along those lines look at it?
One of my guys used to be a city mechanic here, so he transferred over a couple last year, so
Okay.
almost a city mechanic. So.
Okay.
Commissioner Gage.
I'm supportive of this, but didn't we just spend a bunch of money on the wastewater treatment plant to get this too? I mean, come on. I'm fully supportive of it. Seems like a good
9
bargain.
more meetings.
I tried to get it as part of the project, but TJ kept cutting stuff out on me, so I tried.
Roll it into engineering fees.
I would just spread it right on the back end.
So,
Good thing theirs was first.
with that said, do you want me to make the motions?
Sure.
Motion to waive the bidding process for the purchase of a forklift for use at the wastewater treatment plant.
Support.
Been moved and supported. We must need a unanimous vote on this to waive our bidding process. So, yeah, Commissioner Habusta.
I just, is the budgetary concerns the only reason why we're not buying a new one? Is that?
So, dress.
I guess, or is it a time frame thing and we're trying to, this one's local, we're trying to get it quicker? Is it budget? Or is it a combination of both? I guess I'm trying to understand.
Yes.
I would say both. I'm trying to save a little money, and this one is local.
Yes. So, I mean, it's Director Masterson has been incredibly frugal with the resources that he has. Aside from the $20 million in the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, everything else he has done has been outcome focused and fiscally responsible. So he's finding ways of stretching the revenue that's coming into the wastewater treatment plant and getting the things done that we need to get done, or getting the resources the staff needs. So, yes, we could buy a brand new one if we wanted to. I don't really know what the turnaround time is. I know equipment that we bought in other areas in the city is still taking a very long time to turn around. But I think in this case, a local used piece of equipment for $18,000 will serve our plant very well.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about material handling and the excellent service they provide as well.
So yes, I think Kurt, do you rent some stuff from there once in a while? Kurt rents stuff there. They bring a lot of stuff down to these guys. They're right there by Lock City, so he sold us some parts over the years, snow chains for the tires and things like that. So he's been very helpful. I called him, talked to him, and so.
Any other questions or comments? So we have motion and support. All in favor of the motion to waive the bidding, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Gage, number 2.
Motion to approve the purchase of a used Hyundai forklift from Material Handling of Sault Ste. Marie in the amount of $18,000.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Gage.
Motion to amend the budget for the wastewater treatment plant capital equipment by $18,000 with funding from the sewer capital reserves.
Support.
Motion and support. Anybody have any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion also passed unanimously. Moving on, and
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Item G, business items number 4. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 9 more.
9 more.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve an expenditure related to a capital equipment purchase for the water treatment plant. I kind of gave the commission a heads up on this one. Long story short, the project scope started off smaller than anticipated. It was originally a capital project. There was a couple of different components to it. The project was originally budgeted for about $50,000, I believe. There's some work done prior to this purchase. As I mentioned, the scope of the project started to get away. As the project was moving forward, there was a purchase that was made that was under $5,000. As the company that sold us the equipment came up, they noted that there was several changes that had to be made, and then it just kind of got away from the employee that was administering this project. So, as I mentioned to the commission, the personnel side of things, we've addressed this. I feel confident that this won't happen again. I believe this was an error. This is coming to the commission just to authorize the expenditures. The equipment's already been purchased. There's not a real clean, clear way of handling these processes when this happens, so we're just looking for a motion to authorize the expenditure from Kerr Pump in the amount of $23,500. Again, there's sufficient budget in this capital item to cover the costs, and any issues that may have created this issue have been worked out and will be a one-time thing. So we look for motion to authorize the expenditures.
Thank you, City Manager. Who'd like to make the motion? Commissioner Marvel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to authorize expenditure of capital equipment from Kerr Pump in the amount of $23,500.
Support.
There is a motion and support. Any questions or comments on this item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion did pass unanimously. Business items number 5, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve an application for waiver to the State Treasury Department regarding the city's MERS plan. This item may seem familiar. There was a similar request that came to the commission, I believe, at the end of last calendar year, January-ish, for the DDA. And following suit with that, now the notice of underfunded came from the Treasury for the MERS accounts. In the analysis, you'll kind of see some of the actions that's been taken to bring the accounts, the retirement accounts, back up to funded status. As an action item for this, for commission, it'll approve the waiver, it'll be sent to Treasury, and then approved. If not, it'll come back to staff for some further work on it. So if there's any questions, we haven't entertained them. Otherwise, we look for approval. Motion to approve the application of waiver for the city's MERS pension plan.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Rubenstein, would you like to make that motion?
Motion to approve Form 5583, application for waiver of underfunded status of the city's MERS pension plan, and authorize the city manager to sign.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Under item G, business items number 5, the one that Linda Hoth has been waiting for. 6, sorry, 6.
Thank you,
Let's
Mr.
go back to 5.
Skip 6.
Yeah.
Should have been in consent. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve a mortgage and agreement with the EDA for the I-500 project. Long story short, the grant agreement was approved between EDA and the CVB, including the city as kind of a partner in the process. What this mortgage is essentially doing is holding the grant funds over the property to ensure that it's not sold after it's improved and that it maintains its use as what we've described to EDA. So it's kind of it's just a paper process, to tell you the truth at this point, but it does need to be approved by the commission. So if anybody has any questions, we have to entertain them. Otherwise, look for a motion to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement and mortgage for the I-500 property to the EDA.
And Linda Hoth is here and would like to make some comments. And before we do that, I just want to make a disclosure that I am on the CVB board, but have no financial interest or benefits, so I will be participating in the vote. Mrs. Hoth, if you'd like to introduce yourself for the record.
Sure, I'd love to. Is this on? Okay. Yeah, I'm Linda Holt, the Executive Director of the Sioux Convention and Visitors Bureau, and it's nice to see you all tonight. Well, first I just wanted to say, I personally want to say thank you for all that you have done in backing us to get us to a place where we are. I want to let you know that this last week we found out we got another $250,000 from the state of Michigan. So, and we already have the $150,000 from the Great Lakes Sports Commission. So we're getting really close to what we need for right now. For right now, Dave keeps an eye on me and he keeps saying, okay, go, do it. But I want to thank Senator DeMoose. He got us $250,000. I said, you have to appreciate when a legislator works for you. You know, I mean, you are all in the same position here. You're working for the people. And when you work for the people, it makes a huge difference. So Senator DeMoose was here for Engineers Day, and I thanked him, and he brought his son Henry here, and it's been amazing. He said, that's the relationships we all build, and it's so important to build those relationships and keep them going. But I wanted to let you know, too, and a big thank you. And a big thank you to Dave Boyle and Tracy in her office. I love Tracy. She sends out emails to the EDA all the time asking for information, you know. She does an awesome job. And Brian, thank you for all the support you give. And Don, thank you. I have to say all of you thank you, because that's very important for the community. It's going to be bigger, and we've been talking about other people, and I've been talking to a lot of people in the last week since we got this. I said it's going to make a huge difference in the community. So thank you all.
Thank you, Linda. Better watch out, Dave Boyle might ask you to help with the next big contract after the carbide's done, eh? And water treatment plant. Any questions for Linda now that she's returned to her seat? Commissioner Bauer, would you like to make this motion?
Yes, I would. I motion to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement and mortgage for the I-500 property to the EDA.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thanks, Linda.
Quick question.
Sure.
So if Philip Garforth comes back and wants to buy this property, we can't sell it to him?
Can't do it.
21 years. Few of us know that name.
Oldie but a goodie.
Google it.
All right, moving on to G, business items number 7.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve items. One is an agreement with what? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve 2 items related to the Safe Routes to School project. The first item is a motion to approve the agreement between the city and Cloverland to move and reinstall the flashing beacon at Ryan Avenue, as well as a motion to amend the budget by $21,000 from with funds coming from the sidewalk program. These two items aren't necessarily attached per se. You'll see in the items that the Cloverland bill is about $700, and the motion is $21,000 for the project. $21,000 is going to cover the $700 Cloverland bill, as well as some of the survey and engineering work, materials testing, etc. So there's some other stuff that's been done that this budget amendment is going to cover. I believe those items were approved by the commission at a different meeting, and I think we must have missed the budget amendment, so we're following up with it now.
Thanks, City Manager. Any questions or comments on this one? Commissioner Abusta.
Thank you. Just to be clear, this is not covered in the Safe Route to Schools grant.
No.
Thank you.
All right, who would like to make this motion? Commissioner Gage?
I'd be honored to.
Two motions, sorry.
You got it. First motion is motion to approve the agreement with Cloverland to move the flashing beacon on Ryan Avenue.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Gage.
I further move to amend the budget by $21,000 with funds to come from the sidewalk program number 0643.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Moving on, business items number 8. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last but not least is a request to enter into closed sessions pursuant to the Michigan Open Meetings Act, Section 8C, for strategy and negotiations related to the negotiations of a collective bargaining agreement. There will be no action taken after the closed session.
Thank you, City Manager. So we'll need a motion to move into closed session at the conclusion of our meeting. Commissioner Abusta.
Motion to enter into closed session for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with negotiation of collective bargaining agreements in accordance with Section 8C of the State of Michigan Open Meetings Act at the end of the meeting.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will move into closed session at the conclusion of this meeting. Moving on to H, City Manager announcements and updates. City Manager Chapman.
Not much. 4th of July parade and fireworks will be on 4th of July, respectively. And I will be out of the office July 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Any questions for City Managers? So, of course, the parade is at 7 o'clock on Ashland Street on the usual route, and fireworks are at dusk, and they are on the waterfront again this year, so.
Yay.
Yeah. Any questions, comments from the commission? Moving on to item I, which is matters presented by the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at this time? Seeing no movement, we'll move to J, matters presented by the City Commission. Anybody on the commission? Commissioner Habusta.
Thank you. Two comments, Mr. Mayor, if I may oblige. The first is I've had an opportunity to have an upfront and close view of the Meridian Street project, and I just want to say what a wonderful job that crew is doing, both from Elmer's and the city of Sault Ste. Marie. I think Greg Smidigo pretty much could move in at my house at this point for the amount of time that he has spent up there at that project, and they're just doing a wonderful job. So I just wanted to recognize that. And the second thing I wanted to recognize is that Mayor Gary, Senior Manager Chapman, Community Director Freeman, and I had the opportunity to be at the Garfield Landing ribbon cutting. This project was a collaborative effort between a nonprofit housing agency, community housing network, the philanthropic sector, with the Chippewa County Community Foundation. And I'd recognize Josh Billington, who is on the board of directors there, who had the vision to be part of this, the Sioux Tribe, as well as local lenders. This project was to meet a need in our community by adding more affordable housing units in our community and doing it while restoring and rehabbing a historic historical building. And I just want to say what a wonderful asset that is for our community, and I'm thankful for all the many parts that were involved in that. Thank you.
Great comments. Thank you very much for bringing that up. And I think it's worth noting that they recognize the city and Kelly Freeman especially for his assistance in putting that all together. And we jokingly said that there have been 2 mayors, 2 city managers, and a lot of commissioners throughout the process in that. And it's kind of a shame that it takes 6 years to put a housing project together and get it funded, but that is what happens. But it's an excellent, wow, what a great facility. The building is beautiful. So thanks for your comments. Anybody else have any other comments?
I did want to mention that there is no music in the park this week, but when we return with the series on July 10th, it is Petoskey Steel Drum Band. A lot of people look forward to that, so make sure that, and you know, because the music in the park season is shorter this year, and because we won't be doing it this week, I want to make sure that everybody knows. So tell your friends, you know, music in the park with Petoskey Steel Drum Band on the 10th. One of the big events of the summer, truly.
Awesome. Hopefully the rain's done. Any other commissioners? Mr. Bauer.
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn this meeting and meet in the auxiliary conference room to discuss collective bargaining.
Support.
Been moved and supported that we adjourn. All in favor say aye.